Oh, darling. Hello guys, welcome back to the Forensics Unplugged, the home of the Gorilla Camera Work potato can. We're going to go over here and do a video in a second on some products. We'll talk about that in a second. Before we do, just been buying some new products that I'll probably test out formally on the channel at some point, or maybe not. I don't know if there's enough legs in the video on some of this stuff. Koch Chemie Seal. So it's a panel wipe, a silicone, wax, oil and grease remover. So a panel preparation product. It's water-based, alcohol-based. You can dilute it down 1 part product to 4 parts water. Let me just check that. Can be diluted. It says it can be diluted. It doesn't say what it can be diluted with. Must be water. Probably does. I need to read that a bit more, just in case. But 99% sure you dilute that with water. So that would give you, for 5 litres, about 25 quid I think this costs. That would give you 25 litres of panel wipe. Now, it can also be used undiluted. So it's a case of, is it strong enough to degrease polishes and stuff at 1 to 4. So it's hard to say. That's the problem, isn't it? But you could experiment with it. It must be very, very strong if you can knock it down 1 to 4. So I'm really happy with the value of it as it is neat, and the potential value if you water it down even 1 to 2 would be phenomenal. In fact, at 1 to 2 it starts becoming better value than even buying pure 99% proof isopropanol alcohol. I struggle with that word, IPA. So, you know, I mix up my own panel wipe here, and I know lots of you do as well. And I use 99% proof IPA. I'll use between about 20 and 30% IPA, about 2% Surf X HD, and the rest distilled water, which I've got there behind my coolant. That's good value as well, but this is not just IPA, okay? It's got other things in there, but it's predominantly alcohol solvent based. And the reason alcohol solvent is really useful, it gets loads of stick, doesn't it? Because, well, it's a long story, but you know, the industry is trying to sell you panel wipe products for a lot of money with some brands, a lot of money. When you can buy panel wipe and make up your own for very small amounts, then the industry has to give you a reason. Now, I'll just say this that keeps it simple. There might be some great panel wipe products out there, but they're too expensive for me. Now, the reason I'm looking at Koch Chemie is I use their abrasives. So I've said before, who are the best people? If I was to look for a panel wipe product to remove the oils and the remnants of whatever's left on the panel with Koch abrasives, what's the best panel wipe to use? And the answer is the panel wipe that the manufacturer of the abrasives make. So it's the Koch one, because they understand what all the carriers are in their own products and stuff like that. So I should have tried this ages ago, and the price is phenomenal. So there's just a little thing on Koch Chemie Seal, S-I-L. And I'm going to test it out, and if it's any good, I'll speak to Imran into detailing and ask him to stock it. You know, it's very unlikely it's not going to be any good, isn't it? You know, but we'll see. We'll see. I haven't used it yet, so that's that. I also bought a bottle of Built Hamber Cleanser Polish. So it's like a hand polish abrasive with acrylic resins and solvents to clean the paint. And you can rub it on by hand, let it haze and buff it off, and it should fill and gloss up the panel. And acrylic is a material like a plastic that sealants and waxes can bond to, so you can prime the surface of it. I don't know if you can use it as a primer for ceramic coatings. I would suggest you don't do that unless, you know, ask Built Hamber, don't ask me. But anyway, I'm not a big ceramic coating user. I'm a big fan of the Built Hamber range. I use their whole wash products there and their decon products, pretty much nearly all Built Hamber. And I figured the less brands I can use, probably the better, and I love their products. So let's try out their cleaner polish. I'll be playing around with that today. Got a test running these two products that I'll let you know about, you know, trim restorers. And I got a can of San Pellegrino, or San Pellegrino. You know, Reg can't say San Pellegrino properly. Reg, if you're watching, you need to sort that shit out. So he goes San Pellegrino. It still makes me chuckle. Right, over to the main crutch of the video, guys. Let me just have a swig of this. Gets to your thirst first. Okay, guys, now over to this section over here. And James from County Detailing sent me a couple of Autoglanz products. James, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I bought the light from County Detailing, and James chucked in more freebies than you could ever imagine. So that's awesome. Gives me some stuff to test. I stockpile it all and I try and filter it all through to the channel as and when. So what we got is the Autoglanz Aqua Seal, which is a spray-on buff off, or spray-on wet dry off. So it's a wet or dry spray sealant. Hybrid ceramic wax, Prizm. Again, spray on, buff it, or spray onto a wet car and buff it. So effectively, these two products are competing with each other a little bit. So it'd be nice to know which one really is better, but I'm not going to work that out in this particular test. You know, I'm not. But if I had to buy one now, I'd just go with the SiO2, because whatever you think about SiO2, some people say it's all rubbish and stuff like that. I find them quite durable, and I find them really smooth and silky. And I think they look good as well. I think they're popular. Something can't take off unless there's something there to it. And I think the SiO2 sprays have just been like a little improvement over kind of normal detail sprays, to the point where some people use them like spray sealants. You know, some people don't use paste waxes anymore. It's all gone that way. So if I was a betting man, I would buy this one over that one, because there's more water-based spray and rinse sealants on the markets, and I think the SiO2s are a little bit better. Well, it depends what you want though, really, isn't it? And then we're just testing it against the shiny wax, because it gives us a benchmark on the one that was really picked up the most units of gloss increment in the previous test. Now, testing gloss, guys, testing gloss. I could talk to you for hours about testing gloss. Now, the first thing to understand is the more tests you do, the better results you have. And the thing to understand is inconsistencies in the panel. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is a test panel with very soft paint on it. And the quality of this paint, you probably can't really see it. It's so soft. It's not consistent. It's not as good as paintwork on a car, although this paintwork isn't consistent as well. But it's not as good paintwork on a good car. But it's flat, and that gives me that's another thing. Testing on curves isn't great, because that creates variables where the machine can't sit down. It could probably cope with this roof, but it would struggle perhaps on the curve on the side of the car. The gloss meters are primarily designed for measuring flat surfaces. Now, the sort of variance you can get in pre-application readings is big. So in other words, I could take a reading. Now, it's consistent. It's more consistent on gloss, funnily enough, but it's the R-spec reading which is the most prone to fluctuation, because you could just hit a spot on the panel which is still inherently shiny, but it's got a lot more texture in it. In summary, R-spec fluctuates across a panel more than gloss. So if I was to go across here reading this, I would find that the gloss is roughly consistent, as I've tested with my pre-gloss, but the R-spec isn't so consistent. It's more affected by the state of the panel. Hard to describe. Anyway, let's have a look at these results here. So the AG Aqua, these are 3 readings. So free average readings, that's the aggregate, that's the average reading of pre-gloss, 85.3, so it's quite high glossy panel. And R-spec, which is another gloss reading, 79.4. Okay, the gloss has gone down. Sorry, the gloss has gone up on average by 0.5. So that's good. 0.5 on average. Okay, now if you times that by 6, because that's what we kind of did in that Holy Grail thing, we took 6 readings, if you like, even though one of them was gloss, one of them was R-spec. We added them all up, and then we looked at 6 readings afterwards. So even though that's an average, to make it even more confusing, just to give you a vague idea, if you times 0.5 by 6, that gives you +3. So that would put it in a favourable light. But we were considering R-spec, so that would lower this down to 0.3 as a single unit. And then if you times 0.3 by 6, what do you get? Oh, Jesus. Oh, bloody maths. 0.3, 6 times 0.3, a third roughly. A third of 6, about 2, isn't it? So somewhere, a ballpark figure, about +2 if we're putting that in our previous test. Really, guys, it would have been above average, above those paste waxes in the middle somewhere, where it's managed to actually increment gloss, which is okay. Now, here's the interesting thing. Prizm, it added on over 3 readings +1 gloss, which is significant over 3 readings, so it's twice as much gloss as the Aqua product. However, it dropped R-spec because one of its R-spec readings was low. And now here's the problem, and why you need to do more readings. That, you know, if you just don't have the gloss meter in exactly the same place, and it's like moved slightly and it's bouncing off a bit of paintwork that isn't quite as good, it's going to affect it. And that is why with this thing, if you look in this kit, you get a template, so you can you could tape this on, you know, but the problem is you've got to take it off to apply the product and then put it back on again, and then, you know, you could just not be in exactly the same place. So I tend to just mark off where I'm going to put it, but it's an inaccuracy with reading. And this is also, if you get any dust under this sort of thing, it can kind of scratch and it can slide around. So I made my own one from a mouse mat, but it's not quite heavy enough. You know, it doesn't do anything, but it's safer on the material. Anyway, I'm waffling on, guys. But basically, the R-spec drop ruined Prizm, even though I think that might indicate to me that it's slightly more glossy. So if we just go on the gloss thing, +1, over 6 reading average, that would perhaps put it up to +6, which would put that up there with like Griot's Best of Show. But it's been funked by 1 low R-spec reading in the 3. That's 3 reading average, remember, but there was a really low one. So it's actually lost. You know, it's a negative. Now we go over to shiny wax. This recorded over 20 degree gloss +1.7. So if you times +1.7 by 6, what is that? Is that about, it's not quite 12, is it? Last time it got 11.9. So 1.7 times 6 is probably what, 10.5 or something like that. So going on its gloss readings, that's how it was able to get up there. But again, like Prizm, it had 1 low R-spec reading in its 3 reading average, which has dropped its R-spec down. Sorry, that's not -2.1, that's -1.0. Jesus, my maths sucks. So that would knock it down to +0.7 times 6. And +0.7 times 6 would be, what would that be, about 4 or 5? So +4 or 5, something like that. So the product that's done the best in these 3 tests is this one, followed by that one, followed by that one. But both these 2 products I've had a harsh ride in this test, and by taking 6 reading averages, it would sort of filter out one low reading a little bit more. Really, I'm thinking on the fly here as I do this, but like you'd probably want to do like 10 fixed position readings when comparing gloss, at least on flat test panels. And I would get, next time I get test panels made up, I would get, don't use galvanized steel, which I'd used, and try and use very hard steel, and try and get harder paint systems in. This paint is too soft, but it's okay, it's good enough for testing, but way good enough for testing. But these are just little things that I've learned. And ask them for extra clear coat as well. That's one thing they've done, because you're going to be buffing them all the time. So that's it really, guys. That's the order: Shiny Wax, Prizm, and Aqua Seal. It's not the best kind of data to compare, but it gives you a rough idea that the edges we're talking about, when you're up in those 85 or 80 to 90 or 90 to 100 units of gloss, I've said this many times on the channel, the ability to products to add gloss is massively compromised, and sometimes they lower them. That's just a fact, okay? And all these products, or virtually every detailing product that's a LSP, a finishing product, will claim amazing gloss performance and stuff like that. There's more to gloss performance than that, but then they're not all amazing. So that's a negative. You know, it sounds like I'm being negative. The positive is, beyond just reading gloss, they tend to make your car look nice. You know, people know that. If they made your car look awful or no difference, people wouldn't use them. So they give you some sort of hit, fresh dressed hit, a bit like when you fresh dress your tyres. A gloss meter reading might give you all sorts of weird readings, but their tyres would look good. So that's it really, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and what am I going to do now? I'm going to take one of my cordless things, and I'm going to be doing some testing with some hand polishes and fillers and glazes and all this sort of stuff, and my Built Hamber product. But playing around with them on the roof here, which is full. You must be able to see the scratches, surely. You can see them all, can't you? This roof is torn up. Thanks for watching. See you soon.